Հայաստանի Հանրապետության մեծարգո նախագահ, ազգային ժողովի հարգելի նախագահ, հարգելի հյուրեր, կառավարության անդամներ, արդեն 4-րդ անգամն է, որ Հայաստանը հյուրընկալում է ընդդեմ ցեղասպանության հանցագործության գլոբալ ֆորումը։ Ես ուզում եմ նախ ողջունել բոլոր մասնակիցներին, մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանությունն ապահովող ցեղասպանություններն ու զանգվածային
ensuring the human rights and preventing the crime of genocides, to ensure social justice, to restore social justice, and all those who take on the mandate of the above mentioned, our friends, our scientists, diplomats, political scientists, and media representatives, IT representatives. I'd like to greet you all here today. On the 9th of December 1948, the UN General Assembly adopted the Convention about the crime of genocide and its prevention. Many years after that, in 2015, Armenia initiated, with the broad support of the international community, it was possible to adopt the International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide. In this context, I'd like to mention that during the previous global forums, unfortunately, we have started to consider genocide not only as a historical event, not only as a historical legacy, but also a threat that we face all around the world in various regions. And preventing genocide indeed becomes a pressing issue. In this context, representatives of the Republic of Armenia, we emphasize the first genocide of the 20th century, the Armenian genocide implemented by the Ottoman Empire. Nevertheless, I would like to mention that today we still face the threat and danger of genocide in this region. It is considered a pressing issue which requires prevention. And I do need to mention that during the previous times, more and more, especially the Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh, are raising their concerns, speaking about a potential genocide, a threat which they are facing on a daily basis. I believe all of us, each and every one of us, and the international community should take it seriously. We thought that the trilateral statement signed on November 9th created mechanisms to ensure, to prevent the potential genocide among the Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh. Nevertheless, unfortunately, step by step, we noticed, and we are continuously envisaging the realities. The concerns that are being raised, they become more and more close to being materialized. And I must make a comment here regarding how we move forward when we have such concerns and issues. In 2021, we eyewitnessed situations, events, when in Nagorno-Karabakh, those citizens who were conducting their daily agricultural activities, a sniper killed just while in his own tractor. After that, we noticed other events where Azerbaijani armed forces entered Nagorno-Karabakh, the area which was under the protection of the Russian peacekeepers. And after this, step by step, a number of events took place which are worth mentioning. Namely, when the Azerbaijani armed forces, during nighttime, they used light, strong light projectors. They were illuminating the houses after midnight. They were illuminating the Armenian villages and inviting the Armenians to join in Islamic prayers with very, very loud speakers, thus making Armenians, commanding them to leave the villages. Of course, we respect the Islamic culture, Islamic religion, and a clear evidence of that is having in the center of Yerevan, having Islamic mosque, the Blue Mosque, by the way, which has been restored during the years of independent Armenia. Nevertheless, but regional terrorism is what I see. I cannot give it any other definition than religious terrorism to what has occurred. I also need to mention here that unfortunately these activities have not occurred as single items. They are correlated. There is a plan. We see consistent planning, which are becoming more and more materialized. The concerns that we have that Azerbaijan is indeed planning a genocide in the Nagorno-Karabakh, or planning for it. And from this perspective, I do need to mention the provocative speech that is taking place in the area of Lachin's corridor. I do need to mention that some tried to draw parallels between Lachin corridor with the other communication channels in the regions, or the channels and infrastructure that might be used in the future, reconstructed. This is different. The Lachin corridor is for preventing genocide. Closing that corridor, stopping the activities on that corridor means, what does it mean? Condemning the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh to a genocide via 3 different scenarios. The first one can be emptying Armenians of the land, and the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh do not have the opportunity to live in their houses, on their lands. And this mini model is what we see in the Hadrut region of Nagorno-Karabakh, where not a single Armenian lives there after the 44-day war of 2020. I also need to emphasize here that the trilateral statement signed on November 9th ensures that the UN, the Agency for Refugees, they should ensure the return of refugees of Nagorno-Karabakh to these areas. But now, even the office, the Agency for Refugees of the UN, their heads, they themselves cannot enter these areas, not to mention that the refugees can return there in Hadrut region and the civilians of Hadrut. The next scenario which we envisage, which can be implemented, is the loss of identity, erasure of identity, which I believe is also one of the genocide models, potential genocide models. And today, the battle that Azerbaijani forces are against the names, geographical names, against the historical monuments in Nagorno-Karabakh comes to clearly prove what I mentioned above. So overall, in the security context, when we speak about security, sometimes we think only physical security. But what about identity security? The rights of human rights for identity and security, these are interrelated. This is interchangeably linked. It is ironical to speak about this, that the Armenian historical monuments, trying to present the Armenian historical monuments as having origins of another nation, another country. In this issue as well, maybe for many we are being quite flexible, and for this is very, we are very criticized because of being so flexible. However, there is an international specialized body called UNESCO, which has all the expertise, all the skills, in order to assess whether this or that historical monument is of what origin. However, I would like to mention that this is not a battle against lifeless monuments. This is a battle against the identity of a nation. The battle does not have a historical context. This has a practical context. The purpose of this battle is to prove that the Armenians do not have the right to live in Nagorno-Karabakh, because we see that this is the battle against this historical monuments, the context when on the state level, when there is a task that the Armenian writings are replaced with other as if true writings on this or that monument. What is this if this is not preparation to genocide? There is no other way that I can define what is happening here as a preparation to genocide. And the third scenario is physical destruction, massacres, the signs of which we are already seeing, starting all the way from those villagers who were conducting their agricultural activities, who have been targeted by snipers and killed, all the way up to the 44-day war, the actions that took place during this war and killed the civilians not part of the war, but being shelled, being bombed, and being killed. I do not want us to consider genocide merely from one perspective, and it is not something that cannot be prevented. And I do need to mention that, regardless of how weird it may sound after this introduction, I am convinced that nevertheless, the prevention of genocide, the most important tool, is cooperation and dialogue. A dialogue with Baku and Stepanakert, between Baku and Stepanakert. In our foreign affairs domain, we believe this of crucial importance. Azerbaijan shows at every possible opportunity to say that they are willing to ensure the rights of the Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh. However, in international platforms, all the statements, all the rhetorics that they use, it seems as if it is the international community, and not those people who are the beneficiaries of that statement. That statement has been addressed by the Azerbaijan to the international community, but it seems as if it is not being addressed to the people of the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh, and we believe that that message would be true, would be honest, if it is heard in Stepanakert, in Nagorno-Karabakh, to the Armenians living in Nagorno-Karabakh. And I specifically wanted to mention here that security, indeed, is not only about physical security, it's about the security of your identity. That is an inextricably linked component. To know yourself is an inextricably linked component of human rights. On the other hand, to sum up my remark with a very practical, or a few practical remarks which we need to do overall in order to prevent genocides, as well, including the ones occurring in our region. I believe that, considering all the events, notorious events, current and historic, we need to change our regional relationships, the content embedded in our relationships, and the quality. We should start from the simplest steps. In my opinion, I believe hatred speech is unacceptable. hate speech, prevention of it, managing it, excluding it is of utmost importance, and especially on an official level, but not merely on an official level. I do not want that the prevention and condemnation of genocides become an opportunity to condemn nations, to create hatred between nations, to make them deeper, to create a platform for making this divide even wider. I strongly believe that in this region, hostility should also be managed. And we should start from managing hate speech, which exists. At least Armenia, Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, in these relations, we do have hate speech. But I do not want us to regularly be criticizing others. We should also have the opportunity to criticize ourselves, see ourselves from the very day-to-day level. The most important tools of prevention of genocide, I believe, that we ourselves, on an official level, we say that we do accept, we do emphasize that we ourselves should, in Armenia, stop, and as well as political competitors using hate speech, or calling them, giving them a national label as a, put them down using a national label. In Armenia we have this. If you want to tell a person, like you want to hurt them to the deepest of their heart, you know what you do, right? We call them, you are a Turk. That's the worst abuse verbal abuse you can ever say in Armenia. A person that you know very well, a person who has been named that, is, and other people who have wanted to abuse me and have called me that I'm a Turk. They do not abuse me with that because I do not consider being a Turk as an abuse, verbal abuse. I believe that with these issues, we should face the reality and try to change them. In Armenia, in Azerbaijani, they have the same thing. If they want to hurt someone, they want to insult someone, even after the worst curse words in the Caucasus region, which have like a killing impact, they are not as effective as we use an insult as calling a person, you are an Armenian, in Azerbaijan. I believe that on an official level, on the level of the governments and the states, we should acknowledge and accept the reality and say that we do not agree with this reality. This is not what we want to see. We do not want the name of any nation be used as an insult. And I believe this is at the roots of a genocide, and it is at the roots of prevention of genocide. I believe that such realities do take place in Turkey as well. And my remarks today, I call upon the following, that let us start here. Because we cannot solve global issues. Why? Because we cannot first identify these issues on a genetic level. This podium here is of crucial importance because we're speaking about genocide. It's about our genes. And in order for us to understand this issue and the underlying causes, we should analyze the genetic levels and layers of the issue. I hope that among the most important discussions of this forum will be the above mentioned. There was an idea that, and I believe that we still have this concern in the Southern Caucasus, Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, to have discussions via this or that format. This is not a new idea. This is quite an old idea. When I say old idea, I don't mean like ancient, but I mean time-wise. I have always been for this opinion. But I have proposed a very, very important, fundamental formula, resolution. That platform, first of all, should be used solely, to stop hate speech from this region. And on an official level, the heads of the countries should come up with these statements and say that we agree to cooperate with one another in order to eradicate hate speech. especially on an official level. And it is from here that we should start preventing and condemning genocide. Because if any given person in Azerbaijan, Turkey, in Armenia, if anyone says Armenia or Turk to one another on a political level, even if it's not on a political level, that person is doing that purposefully, to morally, politically, to destroy the person and to insult them to the deepest level. In essence, this is the genetic level of genocidal mentality. On the other side, I would also like to mention the fact that now I am here speaking about these issues publicly. This comes to prove that we, nevertheless, are moving forward. There are steps forward. That means that we are facing the reality. We do acknowledge the reality. I would like to emphasize that Armenia, Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and overall in our region, the relations in our region are of paramount importance. And by the way, management of hostility and enmity, there is one important formula. Sometimes there is such an approach that whatever Armenia says, then in Azerbaijan or in Turkey is saying exactly 100% the opposite in Azerbaijan or Turkey. Anything that is Azerbaijan said in Armenia, we should say the exact opposite, 180 degrees. And on the official level as well, of course not always, but very often we see that the safest opinion is saying exactly the opposite of what they said, because this is safe. This is safe both from a political perspective, this is safe from a moral perspective, and this is safe in the broader sense from a psychological perspective. And today, maybe it is the first time I will violate that reality. I will go against it. And today I want to share my agreement with a statement that was raised in Turkey. The idea was the following, that in all the countries in the region, including Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, they need one another for the security, historical security of these countries, for the sovereignty of the countries, for the independence of the countries. And this is a very important formula for us to understand, that once and for all, to change the regime of the relations that we have, we should acknowledge, why are we here? Why are we here? To live just to coexist? Or are we here just to save time? To destroy one another when the momentum comes. So this context, this subconsciousness, we do have in the region, especially more in one country, in the other country a bit less. In one country it's on an institutional level, in the other it's more on an embryotic level. But this reality does exist, and we do see time to time. It's like a cycle. And when we return to social modern technologies, I would like to mention that the reality that I was speaking about are clearly, vividly evident on social media platforms while monitoring and studying them. This is the problem of genocide. I do agree with the organizers. Is identified in new technologies from a new perspective. Now probably they're the most simple technologies, social networks. There was a time when I had an initiative, when I used to say that social networks can be a tool not for hate speech, but for opportunity to dialogue with one another. Of course, back then, that initiative failed, collapsed. You know why? Nevertheless, now, I do want to mention that new modern technologies which have joined countries so far from one another should be able to join countries who are literally neighbors. This might seem as if it's a very simplistic issue. However, it is a very complex issue. I wish success to all the participants of the forum trying to support the solution of this very complex concern. Thank you for your attention.